Hey guys, it's Holly. So today I thought I would take every single 2021 Lego Harry Potter set and combine them all to show you what everything looks like. So I previously did this, but only with kind of the three main sets that were releasing as of June 1st everywhere, because in North America, the Flying Lesson doesn't actually come out until August, and I wasn't able to get it until June 1st. So now that I've got that set, I thought I would try and incorporate it, because with the Flying Lesson, it's kind of interesting. To me, it feels more like a 2018 to 2020 set rather than a 2021 set, despite it being able to kind of be connected modularly. So I'm actually interested to see how this turns out. I haven't actually played around with it before yet, so I think it would be kind of interesting. And one thing I kind of commented on the first time that I did this is that this system is very linear. Everything is very flat, very straight. You can make giant skyscraping towers like this, which personally I found kind of funny and looked pretty good, but as a whole, it doesn't really have the same depth and dimension that the 2018 ones do. I feel like these are going to be really nice kind of fillers if you're stacking things backwards, or maybe you don't have a super deep shelf and then you can build up the height with these sets, which is another really good thing as well. So in total, we have 4 sets. At the back is the Chamber of Secrets, to our right is the Fluffy Encounter, to our left is the Flying Lesson, and then right at the front is the smaller set of the Wave, which is the Polyjuice Potion Bathroom. Now, as you can see as well, these roofs aren't sand green, and that is because I've swapped everything over to be dark bluish gray. I also did a video on this if you guys want to check that out, but basically for me personally, I wanted everything to fit in with the rest of my Hogwarts sets, and since I'd spent a lot of time and money and effort making all of my like 2010 sets have dark bluish gray roofs, I thought I would do the same for 2021, and since I've just left them like this, I really didn't want to go and swap all of the roofs again, so everything is pretty much just dark bluish gray. But do keep that in mind that all of these sets do have sand green roofs, but actually, fun fact, the Flying Lesson doesn't have any sand green or dark bluish gray on the roofs, because it's just kind of like a little balcony sort of thing, so that made it really easy for me. So let's kind of test this out and see what sort of formations we can do. Okay, so here is our first layout. So we have the Chamber of Secrets and the Great Hall over on this side, then the remaining of the Chamber of Secrets set here. Then in this kind of center section, I've combined both the bathroom set and the Fluffy Encounter to sort of make this like little extra wide bit, and then on the end we've just tacked on the Flying Lesson, and you can kind of see here what I mean by it's half a 2018 set, half a modular set, because this looks more like something like the Room of Requirement to me, or even the Whomping Willow set, rather than more of these sort of blocky modular buildings. In fact, even though the balconies and these 2 pillars here can all be disconnected. Now, it's important to remember as well, just like the first time I kind of did this whole exercise, is that the bathroom can actually line up on top of the chamber to add an extra play feature, but also because of the way the kind of movies work and how everything flows in the story, you kind of want Fluffy above the Devil's Snare. So you kind of have to keep that in mind while you're moving all of these pieces around. If, like me, you kind of want this to be movie accurate and story accurate and things like that. This version doesn't really take that into account, admittedly. However, from the outside, it kind of does have a nice flow to things. Although to me, I feel like the Flying Lesson is kind of misplaced. It's so much shorter than everything else. It just doesn't look quite right, and I feel like by taking it away, it's gonna look a bit better, so I'm gonna try and do that now. So here's how that looks, and it doesn't necessarily mean you have to take the Flying Lesson out entirely, as you can actually detach it into 3 separate sections, so you could kind of piece this together and make it a bit taller, but admittedly, these 3 sets alone look more like a Hogwarts. I feel like the Flying Lesson is just sort of this extra expansion piece that doesn't really quite fit in just as nicely, at least when you just kind of tack it on the end. So let's kind of break it apart and try and piece it in a bit better. So here's the next lineup, which is definitely a really big mismatch. Again, we've just kind of got the Chamber of Secrets Great Hall building as is, and then this time I tried to do what I usually do and put Fluffy on top of the Devil's Snare, the bathroom on top of the slide, and this is kind of what we ended up with. So we've got the Devil's Snare here, we've got the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom, we have the kind of fluffy chamber at the top, we have one half of the Flying Lesson, we have the little balcony with the Cornish pixies over here, we have another little balcony from the flying lesson here with the statue, that awkward doorway that's too long to kind of be stacked properly on top of everything. So I feel like if you are going to include that, it kind of needs to be separate on the floor level. And then to kind of make the flow of the castles look a bit better in terms of height, we've got the slide at the bottom. On top of that is the bathroom mixed in with the fluffy roof over here. And then the final tower is the other half of the flying lesson, Lockhart's office, the little balcony from the fluffy set, as well as the Chamber of Secrets sort of rooftop, since it's got those bits sticking out on the side. And this is where it kind of brings out the problems in the flying lesson, which is that kind of center section, which I love because if you look at this set, it's the only door here, which means students can actually enter and exit the castle, which is quite handy. But because it is an awkward length compared to everything else, it can't really be stacked. It has to remain on the floor at all times, which with this system doesn't really work. I mean, unless you kind of made everything a bit more flat and only really had a few giant towers, it's not really going to make the same effect. So speaking of giant towers, I kind of want to attempt to do that now, which unfortunately will mean cutting out that little piece there. So of course, with this new modular system, we kind of have to do the Tower of Hogwarts. And firstly, these are all of the pieces we have left. We've got the flying lesson kind of doorway, a lot of just the little balcony pieces, some roof pieces, and a tower, and that's purely because there was not enough roof space on a Hogwarts castle so giant, so tall, that I think it probably beats the Daily Bugle in terms of height, and this thing is ridiculous. I feel like it works very well if you've only got such a small amount of space on the inside. Lots of room to play with. Probably not the most stable thing ever, but I do think it looks quite hilarious, and it does kind of show you how and which pieces the flying lesson can actually interact with. You've got the kind of two towers on the sides here, as well as these balconies, and those are the main modular sections. You just kind of got to cut out that middle bit if that's really what you want to do and kind of combine it with these. So let's kind of bring it back down and try another more realistic version of this. So here's the next one, and this time there's only 4 additional pieces. Of course, you've got the door from the flying lesson, all 3 of the roof pieces on top of the Great Hall, and 1 of the flying lesson kind of balconies. And honestly, I feel like this version has to be one of my favorites. I think this really works quite nicely, and in terms of story, it's pretty close as well. Now, it's quite tall. I can't quite fit the entire thing in just as is, but there is the peak itself. You can kind of see that the whole thing is just kind of in the center, and then you've got this one really tall tower, and I personally quite like this layout. So taking a look at kind of everything, you've got the Chamber of Secrets entrance here, the Great Hall, then on the top you have the flying lesson balcony with the statue, Fluffy's encounter on top of that, as well as the little tower from that Fluffy set with the little balcony from the Chamber of Secrets over there. Then on this second section, you've got the Devil's Snare, you have the little slide to the Chamber of Secrets, the bathroom of course is on top of that, then you've got a flying lesson tower on the left, a flying lesson tower on the right, followed by the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom with the fluffy roof on the top. Because of the fact that the roof doesn't have these brown base plates at the bottom, that's something I actually only realized when kind of constructing this, is that this one looks so much nicer. Then as you head up to the top of the tower, you have Lockhart's office, you have the balcony from the fluffy encounter, and then at the top you have that Chamber of Secrets tower. I really like this layout. I think it does pretty much capture Hogwarts. It is a tiny bit tall for probably most people's shelves, but in terms of how much space it takes up, it really doesn't take up that much space, especially if you do have kind of the height to go along with it. I think this works quite well, and you don't have too many pieces left over, which is really nice. Just again, this flying lesson section, it really doesn't fit in anywhere. I feel like this is going to be really good kind of combined with the Whomping Willow specifically. It gives me that type of feeling. I'm pretty sure that like the studs wise, it's probably the same as well, and it has the Technic holes in it, so you could do it. Theoretically, you could probably tack this on top somewhere, but it's just not got the same depth as all of the other pieces, so I don't think it would work quite well. So those are all of the variations that I could kind of come up with. I'll deconstruct this now, and we can have a look at each individual piece before we kind of wrap this up. Alright, so here are all of the different pieces, and I feel like the best way to kind of explain this setup is that there's like 3 different widths. You've got kind of the 1 wide, you've got the 2 wide, and then you've got the 3 wide, which is like the Great Hall. Like, they're technically not 3 wide because all of these are 8 studs long, but you kind of get what I mean. There's like 3 different widths, and then you've kind of got the awkward flying lesson piece, which is just sort of in its own little world here. In total, there's 21 different sections, 22, I guess, if you're going to count the Chamber of Secrets entrance. So there are a lot of possibilities, and it really is just a matter of kind of play around, see what works with your kind of layout, your personal preference, your space, I feel like is the big thing, whether or not you really care about the kind of storyline. Do you want the bathroom to be sitting on top of the Chamber of Secrets slide? Do you care about the fluffy trapdoor leading into the Devil's Snare? All of those things really play a part in what you actually plan on creating with your sort of Hogwarts castle, and there are a lot of different options here. I can't cover them all. I feel like there'd be probably like over 10 combinations, but if you do want to kind of see the rest of them without the flying lesson, I will link that video here in the little cards for you if you haven't seen it already. But overall, I really like this new modular system. I definitely don't think my opinions have changed. I still am not 100% sure how I'm going to kind of incorporate this into my existing setup. It's definitely possible with the Technic holes. Like I said, the flying lesson I feel like is going to be the easiest to kind of incorporate, so that's the one I'm kind of going to start with. Maybe I'll do like a second, like own mini Hogwarts display with all of these sets. But I hope that LEGO does continue these in the future. I hope that we get some with like alternating depths. I hope we get some more of these kind of singular pieces. More 3 pieces as well would be awesome, and of course the 2 ones. You could also make mocks out of this so easily. I would love to do that. I'm thinking about getting another bathroom and a floppy set even, and I'm planning on mocking the rooms of them if I do that, because I feel like there's a lot of potential here. They're all kind of fundamentally built the same. You've got the kind of the archways on the side, you have the beams at the top, you have all of these studded area, so all you really need to do is create this kind of front of the castle here, which you can use a bunch of windows, you can use archways, just plain bricks, whatever you want to do. There is a lot of potential here. There's a lot of ability for mocks and modifications, which I'm a really, really big fan of. So those are all of the 2021 castle pieces and castle sets and some of the ways you can display them. So let me know which one was your favorite, and if you guys enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel down below. And if you haven't already as well, I have reviewed every single 2021 Harry Potter set, so I will link the playlist at the end of this video if you haven't seen any of them or want to check them out. And until next time guys, I'll see you later.